cupcakes for sale.
This week in a Manhattan mall, I held a bake sale. A racist bake sale.
We have different prices here. If you're Asian, $1.50. If you're white, $1. If you're Latino or black, 50 cents.
That's not right.
You got to be on your goddamn mind.
He just
Close down.
Is the cupcake poison?
I didn't come up with this idea. I'd copied what some students had done. They call it an affirmative action bake sale.
Why does it have to be shut down?
Here at Bucknell University, the administrators shut the bake sale down. The Students' Conservative Club said they just wanted to start a conversation about affirmative action, which does make it harder for Asians to get admitted, but easier for blacks and Latinos. But before much conversation started, they were shut down. So I ran the bake sale so we could see what kind of discussion the Bucknell students missed.
I'm trying to make amends for racism and punish the Asians because they have an advantage. They have such high SAT scores.
No, that's not true. Because I had an Asian student in my class that was dumb as a cardboard.
That's stereotyping.
It is stereotyping.
That's not right.
Affirmative action is supposed to help minorities that have been discriminated against. But Latinos and blacks who saw my sign didn't like it.
That makes me feel bad because I'm both Latino and black.
Should I not do this because it might hurt people's feelings?
Not only it should hurt people's feelings, but it's just like out of sense of respect.
It's very hurtful. It's very demeaning.
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. You never heard libs scream louder than last week when the Supreme Court officially banned racism. The Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, which judges you by your skin color and then makes a judgment as to how much your worth is as a person. We thought we were over that kind of stuff. Apparently not. There used to be something called an affirmative action bake sale. This was something that was kind of popular, like a gimmick that was popular when I was in college and when I was in the college Republicans. But this was decades ago, and John Stossel was doing an affirmative action bake sale in that clip that we just showed you up front. This is like great work. And it shows that if you price anything else based on your race, if you start charging any other item like based on your race, then you're going to be called racist. Even the black people in the video are like, this is like patently racist, because everyone knows deep down in their bones that affirmative, like judging people based on blood libel, right? Which is like, we're just going to lump you all together as a group and we're going to judge you all as a group based on the color of your skin or what we perceive is your value. That this is straight up evil. Majority of Americans back a Supreme Court on affirmative action based on a poll. Here we go. Americans are split on recent Supreme Court decisions, but 52% of Americans versus 32% of Americans believe in the restricting of the use of race as a factor in college admissions. So that you begin to see that obviously Americans thank God are not in favor of this, and this is from an ABC News poll. So, take it for what it's worth. But poll after poll after poll finds this. Here's an MSNBC poll, Washington Post poll that is promoted here and published by MSNBC from October 2022. Do you favor or oppose the Supreme Court banning colleges and universities from considering race and ethnicity in admissions? 63% they favored it, banning of the use of race in college admissions. Now, I am of the opinion that you shouldn't go to college at all. I think that it's far better for people to go and learn a skill, and I wish that I could get my time back, even though I did an affirmative action bake sale and thought it was hilarious and pissed off a lot of people when I was in college, like nearly 2 decades ago. I wish I could have that time back because I didn't really learn anything of value in college. My college years were wasted, I would argue. And I wish I had gone straight into what I do now. Fortunately, when I was going to college, there wasn't a YouTube yet. And there wasn't any Twitter yet. And Facebook was like in its infancy. So I sort of like let these things develop as my career developed. Awkward. Supreme Court rules against affirmative action with affirmative action hire sitting right there. This is the Babylon Bee headline made true again by real world headlines. MSNBC's Joy Reid admits the only reason she got into Harvard was because of affirmative action, as she slams SCOTUS decision outlawing it at colleges. So, okay, the dumbest person in television, the person with the worst takes in television, proving to us that affirmative action is not a great way to promote individuals. You should be promoting people for things other than the color of your skin, the melanin count in your skin, based on where your ancestors come from 1,000 years ago. Democrats devastated as Supreme Court bans racism. The Babylon Bee just absolutely killing it in this news cycle. John Stossel continued his segment on the affirmative action cupcake sale. We thought it was great. Went and talked to some of the college kids that did it. This is a classic John Stossel on Fox News for back in the day. These clips are about 2 decades old, but they are as prescient today as they were back then. Take it away, John Stossel.
And America has been a bastion of free speech. Oh, except for a few places like the liberal media, especially ABC News, where I used to work. No, actually, they were pretty good. They pretty much let me say most things. The real bastion of political correctness and rules against certain kinds of speech has become the American university. I think a university would be a safe haven for free speech. It's supposed to be. A justification for giving teachers tenure was to make sure they could freely express even unpopular ideas. But today, some universities try to ban unpopular ideas. Helping to fight that is a group called FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. They defend students whose speech is shut down by universities. The director of FIRE is Greg Lukianoff. He joins us now with 2 students whose schools told them, shut up. Kirby Thomas ran that affirmative action bake sale at Bucknell that we showed you being shut down earlier. Kirby, why did you want to run an affirmative action bake sale?
Our group thinks affirmative action is a really relevant topic, important to talk about, and we just wanted to get a discussion going on our campus.
But you oppose race-based affirmative action.
Absolutely.
And it is pretty provocative.
It is. It's hard to get people talking on a college campus, and when you do something controversial, and opposing affirmative action is kind of controversial anyway on a college campus, but
kind of.
I guess that's an understatement. But in that context, it really got people talking.
But the talk was stopped because within an hour you were shut down.
Yeah, the students who came wanted to talk about it. We had a great discussion going, even agreed on some points about like maybe socioeconomic affirmative action for underprivileged students economically. But the university came and they didn't want any of that going on.
Well, I ran my bake sale so I could hear some of the comments that I assume you would have heard had you been allowed to run yours. And the comments were interesting. At first, people called me racist.
What is funny to you about people who are less privileged?
But then some people defended me.
You're trying to make a point, right?
Right.
So sometimes you got to do things like that to make a point. It's not racist.
And people started to think about what affirmative action means.
No race of people is worth more than another, or less.
Well, do you believe in affirmative action in colleges?
I used to, but I really don't think that it helps.
By the end, most people said equality means no affirmative action.
Everybody should be treated equally. No matter what race you come from, everybody should get equal the same.
So I found that interesting. People went from belligerence to a real conversation, and I guess that's your point.
On every major issue that America faces today, I've seen students get in trouble for being on the wrong side of that argument. And you can't have a meaningful dialogue if people have to fear punishment for having an opposite opinion.
And these bake sales have been shut down not just at your school, but at UCLA, William and Mary, UC Irvine. Most schools these days do allow them. They've wised up.
Yeah, they started back in 2003, and the first 6 that were held, universities found all these different excuses for shutting them down, basically coming down to the fact they didn't like the message. And there's been at least 3 dozen of these protests, and I think actually many, many more over the years. But Bucknell is just standing firm. That kind of like
Bucknell just last night sent me an email. State and federal laws prohibit discrimination.
Yeah.
The university believes in upholding the law. There's no just kidding clause in the laws. So price discrimination is discrimination.
Yeah, I love this argument that Bucknell's standing by because it's clearly a symbolic protest. There's nobody denies that. And there are these things called gender gap bake sales across the country where women get charged less than men to protest the gap in pay between men and women.
So a feminist group complaining about the so-called pay gap does the same thing.
And they never get shut down.
Is it just conservatives who get shut up?
You know, definitely you are much more likely to get in trouble if you have a socially conservative point of view on campus. But in my experience, and FIRE has come to the defense of people all over the political spectrum. We've certainly had cases where we've had to come to the defense of PETA at a school in Florida where an administrator just said, I liked her honesty, that she actually came out and said, you can't table for PETA because I don't like that group.
But I would think most of the time they would say, we want to have a civilized discussion. We want our campus to be a kind place. If students feel oppressed, they won't learn. That sounds reasonable.
It sounds very nice, but freedom of speech and academic freedom and meaningful discussion is a deadly serious business. And if you limit it only to what people are comfortable with, then you end up shutting any meaningful discourse up.